The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to RISmedia's webinar series. I'm Verl Workman with Workman Success Systems, and today's awesome event is brought to you by Quicken Loans and automated content and engagement called ACE, RISMedia's ACE program, which is just absolutely phenomenal. We're excited for you to be here, and I want to encourage you all to stay to the very end of the webinar. You know, we do these webinars every month, and sometimes they're broker-centric, other times they're more agent or team leader-centric. Today's broker-centric focus is all about really thinking strategically in 2018, and we have a phenomenal guest. And throughout the presentation, we're going to talk about some systems and process and ways of looking at your business and thinking strategically so you can make 2018 the best year you've ever had in real estate. And I'm a believer that that absolutely can happen. And so as you stay to the end, I'll give you a slide at the end that'll give you a landing page that you can go to and download some of the content that we're going to share with you throughout the webinar. I want to introduce Tom Dempsey. Tom Dempsey is the Divisional Vice President of National Sales for Quicken Loans. And we appreciate Quicken Loans and their enthusiasm and energy around the webinar series that we've been able to put on throughout the year, and they've been a great partner. And I especially like Tom's experience and background and what he brings to the table on each of these calls. Tom, welcome to the call, and we appreciate your support, and thanks for making this possible today.
Anytime, Verl. Thank you very much. Excited to be here, and think that today's topic is going to be it's going to hit the home run with what we got coming up in 2018. So super excited.
And so I love the new book. Tell us, if you don't mind, you might share with us just a little bit about the new book?
Yeah, so I think that, you know, a lot of places will talk about having a mission statement or a vision or values, and we're no different than any other company. We have what we call our isms, and we decided to take these simple sayings that are not groundbreaking, right? They're pretty much common sense, and turn them into a sort of visual representation within a colorful book with examples that we'd like to share with any of the attendees today. So I believe at the end we'll capture some information and be able to send that book out and give you a little bit of insight just into sort of how Quicken Loans is built, right? And what we like to say is it's more about who we are than what we do, right? What we do is mortgage lending, which is pretty simple, pretty basic when you explain it, but who we are is much more important. So this book will share a little bit about that.
Well, I appreciate that. So is there anything in particular that you're doing strategically in 2018 that you want to share with the audience that will help us as we plan on making this our best year ever?
You know, Verl, that's a great question. Sometimes it's a loaded question, but I think that, you know, when we think about 2018 and our strategy and our planning, and that's continuing to be visible out in the industry and out in the market and extend that arm of partnership to those that are out that are trying to make home ownership come to fruition for clients and the like out there. And so, you know, oftentimes this is a hand-to-hand combat sport that takes repetition, and once in a while it's good to make sure we go back and look at our strategies and our business plan, as we'll hear more about today, and make sure that we're spot on with that. But we will continue to be visible. We will continue to bring sort of our innovative and collaborative spirit to the market, and continue to push forward on our goals in 2018.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. And thanks again for your support. And I encourage you to stay and be engaged as we introduce Todd and we talk a little bit about what they're doing with their awesome company in 2018 as well. So let me introduce everybody to Todd Hetherington. Now, Todd, I hope you don't mind me I'm going to go off script and just give a little personal experience. But I met Todd. He was hosting a panel that I was on. It was at the RISmedia conference. And after the panel, he had reached out and we had began a business relationship. And we first dated for a little while, got to know about each other's businesses. And let me, you know, I've been doing this for about 20 years. And so I've been in the space for a long time, and I've worked with a lot of CEOs. I've worked with a lot of companies. And it's very rare that I am in shoulder to shoulder someone that I walk away with and I say, wow, that's a really impressive group. And when I first met Todd, it wasn't just Todd, but it was everybody in his company that I've come in contact with. He has attracted, I'll call it an A-team of leadership. And when you have an A-team of leadership, it's a direct relationship to the head. And Todd is the CEO of a company called Century 21 New Millennium, and they're in the Washington, D.C. greater areas, and they have got a pretty significant company. It's interesting, as I met Todd, we kind of went through his background. Todd grew up in New York City, and so, you know, he's an East Coaster, and he's got some of that East Coast attitude, and I mean that as a compliment. It's a get in and get it done attitude. He left home and attended West Point, and as I've learned a little bit more about what it's like to get into West Point, that's not an easy thing, and it takes an act of is it the Congress or is it the Senate that has to nominate you, Todd?
It is. It's either a congressman or a senator.
I mean, I don't even know any of those people, and to have the pedigree as a high schooler to be nominated by a congressman or senator to represent, you know, our great country in the military is quite an accomplishment. And then after completing his education at George Washington and West Point, you know, he served our country. He's got a great background in engineering, but really the most impressive thing is what he's done in business, and to me, and what he's done as a family man. He's got a great attitude. He's got a great culture, and they've created a phenomenal country. Do you mind just a phenomenal company? Would you mind just telling us a little bit about your company, a little bit about your leadership structure, and then let's kind of get into what you're doing from a planning perspective and how we're gonna make 2018 a phenomenal year.
Sure, happy to, Earl. First, thanks very much for having me. The comments are too kind, and they shouldn't be directed to me. I've been blessed not only with a phenomenal leadership team and executive team, but a phenomenal business partner. You see on the slide there, Mary Lynn Stone is my partner in crime, and we oversee all of the NM companies. Real estate probably takes up about 60-65% of our work week, and then mortgage, title, and commercial and insurance take up the rest. I'm glad that you mentioned the fact that we have an A team, and it's interesting because from our perspective, having the right people on the bus is everything. And Mary Lynn and I couldn't run the company the way that we do if it was just the two of us. We've got 18 offices, we've got 850 agents and 125, 130 employees, and we would just be going crazy and I'd say pulling our hair out. You can see that I've already done that. But we have we have branch leaders and we have directors that have their own autonomy over the region that they run, whether they're running a branch for us, and we specifically call them leaders as opposed to branch managers, because they're not managing. You know, we consider managing something you do with things, and we consider leading what you do with people. And so we've attracted folks from outside of the real estate industry and put them in positions of leadership because they're great leaders as opposed to just great real estate practitioners. It's our philosophy that we can teach the real estate side, but we can't teach the people side and the leadership side.
I agree with that. It's humbling to be in a room with your leaders and really understand the way that they think and the way they approach the business, and the culture you've created has a very strong culture of accountability and tracking.
One quick comment, because the first slide you mentioned born and bred in New York City. For the folks that are from the rest of New York State, they probably picked up on. I'm actually grew up in a small town called New City, not really that small, but suburbia of New York City. So New City, New York, midway between West Point and the city. So it's my accent and my attitude isn't quite as heavy as you think it would be.
Well, I'm just telling you, from an outsider looking in, I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah. Anybody that's east of the Mississippi River has New York attitude. We're pretty laid back, and it's fun to be engaged with people that are such. I guess the right word is focused. It's focused, and you know, there's not a lot of limiting beliefs, and I think a lot of that has to do with your upbringing and the background and where you come from. It just is. If you need something done, we get out there and we get it done, and I love being surrounded by people that have that attitude. Tell us a little bit about the area that you serve. You got it's a pretty big geographic footprint.
Yeah, we got about a 3-hour geographic footprint from where our corporate headquarters is in Alexandria, Virginia. We've got 8 offices in Virginia, 8 in Maryland, and we've got the District of Columbia as well. So there's about a 70-mile radius with concentric circles outside of the DC area. obviously, we've got 15 military installations within a 30-mile radius of where I'm sitting right now, and we've got the federal government. So it's a highly transient population. And believe it or not, most people would think, oh my gosh, you must have an average sale price of $600,000-700,000. Because of the footprint, we do not. Our average company sale price is about 320, just a little under 320, because we go into Southern Maryland, we go into Western Virginia, not West Virginia, but Western Virginia.
So you'll have pockets with higher average sales prices, but overall the average takes care. It encompasses a lot more rural and just suburban areas.
You bet.
Yeah, very cool. So, with a footprint that big, I'm just curious what you would say to the question is, what do you look at in 2018 as the biggest obstacles, or what do you think? How do you think the market is changing? And then we'll talk a little bit about how you're going to adapt towards that.
Well, I think the obstacle for many of us, or for all of us, might be that we need to make sure that we are all staying relevant. We need to make sure that we're bringing a value proposition to the table that our agents actually believe in, and that they walk away every day saying, yeah, I'm getting something from those guys. They've helped me. So what we strive for every day, and I'll put a shameless plug for you, Verl, and make sure that folks, you alluded to it before, that we started a business relationship, but what we went to Verl for, and I, in a similar fashion, I have come into contact. I've been messing with this real estate game for the last 30 years, and I have not met somebody like Verl that understands the number crunching side, the business side, but also understands that it's the relationships that really make it. So we spent 3.5 days. I heard so many good things about Verl and his company, Workman Success System, and it sounded almost too good to be true. And I'll tell you, this is totally off script for everybody that's listening in. This was not meant to be a plug for Verl, but I'll put it here.
we don't have a slide on this. There's no slide, Todd.
No, but I mean it very sincerely. I have not come into contact with that many people that are cerebral enough and down to earth enough, if you can have that much of a contrast, that get the business. And so we flew our entire exec team, 6 of us went out to Salt Lake City, and we spent 2.5 days because it sounded too good to be true. And we tried to poke holes before we spent $1. And 3.5 days, really, we had one that was one member of our exec team that was really reticent and hesitant. And midway through the second day, he was texting me while Verl's talking. He goes, "Man, I'm so glad you made me come out here, and I know I didn't want to, but this is great stuff, and it's going to be a great partnership." So in rapid succession thereafter, we signed up, and what I've been most impressed with is, and Verl has been coaching us, and one of his top coaches, Cleve Gaddis, is phenomenal, has been coaching our exec team, and I've been just incredibly impressed with their breadth and their scope of the knowledge of the industry, but their ability to take that and to narrowly define it and get, you use the word focus, because we're a focused company. We're getting more focused as a result of the relationship and the partnership that we have with Workman Success Systems.
Well, I appreciate that. And I wanted to, just from a housekeeping perspective, as we talk today, Todd and I, because we've entered into a coaching relationship, I have some insight into his business. So I'm going to ask some pretty poignant questions that will give you some insight onto the way that they think as a business and how they're strategically going after some new things in 2018. I think that it makes for a very interesting webinar today. If you have questions for Todd or for Tom Dempsey with Quicken Loans, use the control panel on your GoToWebinar and type those in, and we'll make sure we leave some time towards the end to answer your questions about strategy and where the business is going and how we're focused on getting there. So talk to us a little bit about your focus and where your focus is for 2018, Todd.
Sure. Well, one of the things I learned in the military was acronyms actually make things stick, and you pretty much tell them what you're going to tell them, and then you tell them what you told them. So the acronym we use is ROCK, and if you just want to make a bunch of those things fly in, if you would please, Verl. The first one obviously is recruiting. That's everything else is secondary by that. The O, so it's ROCK, R-O-C-K. R is for recruiting. The O is for office generated lead, and that's really the most profitable entity or most profitable transaction that we can do within our entity. And so by doing that, we can make the most money. Therefore, it makes sense to do more of them. So lead generation and conversion to create office-generated business as opposed to what the agent brings to the table. Obviously, we all want to do more business that the agents bring to the table. But if we can do it where the company and the offices bring it to the table, it's even more profitable. The C is our core services. Most people realize that you can't just make it, or if they haven't realized, they will, even in the coming years. You can't just make it in this business hawking houses. We need to be out there doing the whole gamut, and we need to make sure that we have one-stop service. So our mortgage company and our title company are obviously every bit as important. And from Tom's perspective, Quicken Loans is phenomenal. They're a national company, and they've got a great business model. We are small potatoes, just doing the area in which we service in the DC metro area for our mortgage company and our title company. And then we are in the infancy stages on our insurance. We're less than a year into the insurance relationship, so I'm curious, to learn from other folks on that. Mortgage and title we've been doing since '97, and we think we're doing fairly well with that, and it's a profitable business for us. And then the K, just because we had to get cute about it for ROCK, is keep. So we want to obviously keep our agents. We want to attract the best agents. We want to be able to keep them. And so from the K stands for keep, but it's retention and the culture that we have as a company. That last one is really the most important one. New Millennium needs to be the place to be. Our brokerages, as far as our business plan for 2018, we want everybody pointing in our direction saying, yeah, those are people that I'd like to be affiliated with. They represent us well. I'd like to do transactions with them. They're fun to be hanging around with, and they're the place to be.
I love that. So go ROCK one more time, just the letters. So it's recruiting?
Sure. Recruiting, office-generated leads. We differentiate between agent-generated business, office-generated business, and company-generated business. So the company-generated business would be third-party relocation. And I mentioned before, obviously, we are in a highly transit area, so there's a goodly amount of relocation business, both military and corporate. But then the office, in those instances, we're obviously paying a third party, whether it is a Cardis or a Serva or a Weichert relocation or any of the various relocations companies. Whereas the office-generated business, that which we can create internal to our organization, the referral fee doesn't go out of the company, it stays within the company, so it's most profitable. So recruiting is the R, office-generated leads is the O, core services is the C, and keep is the K, retention and culture.
And I think at the end of that, the keep could also be, it's not how much you gross, it's how much you keep, and it could be net profitability as well. I love that ROCK. It's a very simple acronym to remember the things that are really important to us. So talk to us a little bit about how you accomplished the culture that you've been able to build.
Sure. It can't be just Mary Lynn and I dictating and mandating from the top. We get everybody involved. I mentioned the caliber of folks on our leadership cadre. These are folks that are used to, they came from corporate America, or they came from senior ranking positions within the military, or they were professional athletes. They're competitive people, and they get put into the mix. We support them with supervising brokers to understand the real estate side. So the branch leader didn't necessarily have the real estate background. They've got the leading background, and then they have a supervising broker who's their tag team, right, standing up there with them, able to field and facilitate the real estate side. But what we do is we start off with our workshop. We have a CFO, Kevin Walsh, who oversees the kickoff for our budgeting and our business planning for 2018. We start the first week of September. So it's truly a multi-month process, and it's rather detailed. My background from an engineering standpoint can be both a help and a hindrance. The undergrad was civil, the master's is engineering management, and that tact or that take, I actually go back to George Washington and I speak to the engineering students that are there right now, and because many of them are trying to decide what specific track that they're going to be focused on, and several of them really don't know. For instance, during civil as an undergrad, I thought for sure I was going to be moving dirt and being an engineer officer with the civil engineering unit for the rest of my life. And it just happened that I got into real estate, but I'm glad that I, for my master's, did a broad brush, which was basically an MBA for engineers. And the reason I mention that is because when we do our business planning and our budgeting, that's the process that we go through. It isn't just a fly by the seat of our pants. We do a gnat's ass detail down to the agent by agent breakdown. The agents roll up into the office roll up into the company, and the different departments are separate P&L. So everybody is control of their own P&L, everybody has their own bonus structure. So our branch leaders are bonus based on the profitability of their domain, which is the branch. Our directors, be it mortgage, title, you name it. I mean, even our F&A and our finance and accounting and our HR department, those folks have bonuses based on the objectives that they need to hit on their business plan. Our business development folks and our relocation folks have bonuses built into their pay plans. There's a variable component on top of the stable component, and the variable component has to do with the results. And those results, the activities that are going to get the results, are what they're going to be bonused on. So we start in September with workshops, with Kevin kicking it off, and then he has the structure, and then they're the ones that own their P&L. They complete everything, and they can determine within reason, they can determine their staffing. They can help save on the occupancy expenses if we decide to increase or decrease the square footage and the footprint of an office or change location. So they've got input into absolutely everything. We do a lot of networking and brainstorming with other companies of our size, and we'll do about 8,000 transactions. So we're not huge national firm, but we're not a small mom and pop shop. So we try to network with folks that are our size or larger, so we can learn from them. And it's interesting to realize how many people really don't put the onus on the branch leader or on the director to own their P&L. And we're all about owning the P&L and compensating people based on the delta that they can make to the bottom line of their P&L.
It's unfortunate, but also really true that most people that don't know how to create their P&L, let alone review it and analyze what it really means to them. I thought you said something that was really interesting. I'd like you to expand on it a little bit. You said that my strength is sometimes also my weakness, meaning that your engineering background is your high attention to detail and your analytical nature. And you said all of those things that make us great. How do you compensate for that when it becomes too analytical? Or
that's a great point.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
We need to get away from the reporting, and I don't know who's registered on this. I don't have access to it, but if I've got any of my leadership team on it, I'm sure they're saying, yeah, we'd love to do fewer reports. We'd love to have less accountability sessions, and I get that. Marilyn and I get that. We understand. We just actually onboarded a new branch leader who came from a company that was 10 times our size in the Northeast, and 25-year veteran of the industry and a bright guy. And I asked him after his 2 weeks of orientation, actually I asked him after not even a week into it. I said, so where are you faring with the orientation? Because 15 years ago, our branch leaders were thrown to the wolves. We said, very similarly, like we used to do with agents, there's a desk, there's a phone, have at it. And as we've matured as an organization, we now have a 2.5 week, very detailed orientation for our branch leaders before they even say hello to Agent One. And so I asked this gentleman, I said, so, with your background and multi-jurisdictionally licensed and various states around the country, and he's had a great breadth of experience. And again, the company he came from was 10 times our size, and he just said, I can't believe how buttoned up you have stuff. So that is a blessing and a curse. We are buttoned up, if you will, from a reporting standpoint, but we need to be able to be more focused on not the results in the reports, but more focused on the activities that are going to generate what we really want results to be. So Viral has been instrumental in also trying to simplify how we look at stuff. I love matrices. I love spreadsheets, and I can really tell a good bit from it. I actually, it's interesting when you take a look
Todd,
at.
Hey, Todd, can I get you to adjust your mic? We're getting that funny feedback again, and it's a little bit hard to hear you.
I'm sorry. Any better now?
Yes, that's much better. Thank you.
Sure. Sorry about that.
We were talking about, yeah.
Thanks. I was going to say, we literally get down to the detail of calendaring and try to run our company based on scheduling and calendaring and having a rhythm, if you will, so we can be organized and know that on whatever day of the month, whether it's going to be a Monday call with our branch, our teams, our team leaders, and a Wednesday call with our branch leaders, or a monthly branch leader best practice session. So they're on a regularly scheduled recurring day. When we take a look, if I were to take 18 branch leaders' calendars and put them on the screen right now, and everything's color coded a certain way, recruiting obviously would be a green activity, and then the ash and trash stuff would be the red color. And then the yellow would be the stuff in between. That would be some of the training things that are really retention, but they're not quite recruiting. And so if I were to put 18 calendars and show them on the screen right now, and then I were to put the bottom line profitability or the increase year over year of each one of our offices on the screen to the right, you could sort of draw, not sort of, you could literally take and draw a line from the most detailed, complete calendar with robust activities on it to the one that was being the most profitable or the best return year over year. It's amazing how, how you used to go to the dentist office and you'd have to fill out the in those little highlight magazines, and you'd have to fill out, find different things and draw lines. You could draw the line the same way, and realize that those that were most successful were the ones that were getting the most amount done on their calendar.
It seems like a simple concept. If you actually execute the things you put on your calendar, you end up with a different result than those who don't get the stuff done. Talk about what you provide your agent from a coaching and training perspective as far as staying relevant and competitive in a marketplace where there's so much downward pressure on commission splits, on how much agent is willing to engage with their broker, what they believe the value they add. And I'll tell you, it's not just in your market; it's all over the country. We see all these new business models coming out. How are you dealing with that?
Great question and great comment, and there most definitely is pressure from every level. I guess the best way to approach that, Mary Lynn and I have just been, this is the season obviously for holiday parties, and so we try to get in front of whenever there's going to be a group of 20, 30, 40 agents together celebrating. We have been doing the circuit, if you will, and I literally was screaming up 95 just a few minutes before jumping on this webinar, and I was down in our Fredericksburg office, and you get a pulse for the culture of the office, and you just get a flavor for it during the holiday party. And the neat thing that in virtually all of our parties, if I had one person come up to me, or Mary Lynn, if they came up to Mary Lynn, they would make the comment. They'd sort of pull me aside away from the branch leader and say, "I just love so-and-so. They're fantastic and what they've done for me." So it starts with the leadership, and I think we've spoken about that a good bit. And that's just the starting point, because you can have the best leader, but if you also don't have a good compensation plan, we've got the cap program in addition to the tiered commission program that the agents can choose what fits their business best. So you've got to be competitive from a commission structure standpoint, but you also have to be relevant and bring something of value where you're going to make them as successful as they want to be. And so we needed to have the leadership and the training and the coaching set up where we not only do business planning, as I mentioned, on the company level or the branch level, but it's agent by agent, and we've got it to varying degrees. We've got a one-page, very simplistic agent business plan, and broken up into 4 quadrants of their personal side, their professional side, and what they want to accomplish from a unit standpoint and from a profitability standpoint. Or we have a 21-page, no pun intended with the Century 21, but a 21-page business plan that they can go through. And so our branch leaders sit down with our agents and try to figure out how we can take them to the next level. Then we figure out where they need the improvement, and we try to make sure that we're able to provide the solution. You see some of the things on there from contracts or listing and buyer certification, the success center, and I'll go off on a little bit of a tangent here, and this probably isn't the place for it, Burl, but I'll apologize in advance and just tell you that bottom left one, everybody, the NM Success Center, we have had hundreds of tools and systems over the years, and the brand has had hundreds of tools and systems over the years, and many of them are very good, but the problem is our utilization rate has sucked. So if you've got a poor utilization rate, you can have the best tool, and if we can't sell the value and sell it to the point, I'm a firm believer it's because we have too many. And if you have a plethora of stuff, and you can't let the 2 or 3 things bubble to the top and become a focus, that's what Verl and his folks have been able to do for us. And we've got a big event coming up on the 6th of February that we're rolling out a new platform, and it will include minimal tools. We're just going to be rolling out the ones that based on our surveys and based on our focus groups with the agents, which ones they value the most. So I think we're relevant by not bombarding them with 100 different things, but bombarding them with 3 things that are going to make a difference in their lives.
I know we have a couple slides that show some of those initiatives, so we'll bring those back up.
Yeah.
But I think that is really important. There's no limit to the amount of things that we can do as brokers for our agents. As a matter of fact, we could launch a new program every day and not run out of things to launch. The challenge isn't launching stuff, but it's actually getting a high level of execution, and it starts with getting buy-in at the top and then having a strategy to actually get the agents to buy in. So talk a little bit about the buy-in at the top, and then as we kind of roll out, we'll get into how we're rolling out all these different initiatives from the bottom up as well.
This slide you guys are looking at is one that just happened early October, I guess. No, when did we do this? Early November. This was that recent.
Yeah,
where we
November,
pulled our leadership team. Yeah. Pulled our leadership team off-site. You see that there. It's more of a casual environment than the workshops that you saw before. And we here spent 3 solid days, morning, noon, and night. A lot of the best ideas happened after the 5:30, 6 o'clock cocktail hour started, and we went through what we thought we talked about during the day, and we perfected it at night over adult beverages and the bonding time of competitive games. But the planning sessions are really getting buy-in from the branch leaders, because what we can't have happen is we can't have 18 offices run 18 different ways. And so in order to be able to get a uniform dissemination and delivery of our value proposition, we need that leader who's at the helm to be able to believe in what we're doing. So the purpose of the planning session is to get everybody lockstep and give everybody a chance to give their own input and feedback, and then tweak the direction we think we want to go, and make sure that everybody that's in a leadership position and is in a position that is of somebody that is able to mold somebody else, that they believe in it 100%.
How often you get your executive leadership team together in an environment that's away from the offices like this a year, and how long have you been doing it?
For the branch leaders, we do it twice a year. And when you use the term, and I know you're saying executive leadership, that would be all of for the folks on the call, it would be our branch leaders. Yeah, because we'll pull our exec team together as an offsite quarterly, but we'll also do a monthly full day meeting with our exec team, who happen to also be our team leaders of our branch leaders. So there's sort of a first line of defense, and instead of having a span of control of 18 branch leaders, we have 4 or 5 on a team that's able to work that way. So the slide you see there, that we were just speaking to the top down, and then when you throw the arrow up for the bottom up, that's really when you achieve success. So if our leadership believes in it, and if we can then convey that message from the bottom up also and get the agents engaged in it, we can't just operate in a vacuum. We need to listen to our agents and find out what's going on in the marketplace, and also listen to our competition, and be able to be ahead of where our competition is going, not necessarily on the bleeding edge, but be on the leading edge of what we want to do, then we achieve success.
I appreciate that. If you don't, Todd, if you don't mind, I'm curious to ask Tom if, being with a big company like Quicken Loans, do they do like off-site leadership retreats like that, where they bring their executive or leadership team in away from everything else and get everybody on the same page? What does that look like when you're dealing with, big companies?
Yeah, it's philosophically, it's the same thing, bro. We do the all senior leader offsites. We do business area senior leader offsites, and I think the most important part of that is really twofold, right? So you have senior leaders getting together off-site, right, outside of the 4 walls of the company, and being able to freely discuss ideas, but you have it happening across all business areas and not just at the top. And Todd talked specifically about, bottom up and that being important. And I guess I would just add to that, when you're planning, getting feedback from your doers is so important, right? And any strategy planning you're doing. So if you're getting off-site, having that information from, the folks that you want to increase usage or adoption or a new process with, gathering all of that and building that into your plan from a leadership standpoint is important, because and Todd talked about this very early on, but I think it's important to stress again, is that leadership is not what you do to someone, it's what you do for someone, and that's a key difference between that and managers.
Yeah, I think that what I'm picking up, Todd, is you're talking about the offsites, and you talk about it so casually, like it's just a normal thing. And I think it's one thing that's a differentiator that separates the average from the exceptional. And you don't have to be a company with 900 agents to have an offsite. You could be a team leader with a buyer's agent and an administrative assistant, or you could be somewhere in between. But to get away and to reward your people for the good job that they do and create an environment where they can share freely, and then talk about what our plans are for the year, it was really impressive for me from the outside to look at the dynamics that you've created as a culture with your branch leaders, and have them all come and share and collaborate and give ideas, and they all felt like they had an equal voice. It was impressive to be a part of that. And I think it's not accidental. What you create as a business leader is you intentionally create the culture that you want. And what you're talking about is creating a culture that has collaboration, it has accountability, but it also has fun.
It's funny you mentioned that, but the last line of our mission statement speaks to that. We strive every day to be an organization that is fun, fair, and profitable. And if we can't have fun in what we're doing, I mean, shoot, Mary Lynn and I typically have a good belly laugh every day, and we must inject one another so much. We truly have fun, and we need to make sure we have environments where our agents can have fun. The operative word that we make all decisions by is fair, and what's the fair thing to do. And profit isn't a four-letter word by design. I mean, it's okay for the agent to make a profit, and it's okay for the broker to make a profit.
That's right. We need each other. Let's talk a little bit about some of your initiatives and some of the things that you're rolling out or have rolled out with the agents to try and create that the last R is the keep in ROC. The retention and
Sure.
how we're keeping people.
I think one of the things that and we'll run through that. One of the things that we have done fairly well through the years is we've done transaction coordination and marketing to some extent for our agents on their behalf, but it's been decentralized and it has been done 18 different ways in 18 different locations, if I'm being very honest. So what we were trying to do, and the thought process was that we were probably going to centralize the physical plant for this agent concierge team, for the ACT. Now, as a result of where the best players are, because my job and Mary Lynn's job is to put the best people we possibly can in the right positions and to attract the talent. Well, we've got a number of talented folks that are doing this throughout our offices right now. We're just restructuring who they are going to report to and what their job description will be, so we make sure that we can still get a uniform delivery of the NM value proposition to our agents. So in February, we're doing a company-wide meeting, and it just so happens to coincide with our 20-year anniversary as an organization. So we'll be celebrating our successes and whatever we've been doing right over the last 20 years. But more importantly, we'll be looking forward to the next 20 years and the next millennium, if you will. And so our focus over the last 20 years has been on taking great care of our customers and clients. And really our focus, the way we're looking at it, if we take great care of our agents in the next millennium, then they'll take great care of our clients. So everything we're focused on is how do we save the agent time? How do we save the agent money? How are we going to be able to simplify their lives? And how are we going to be able to give them the right tools and the right resources that they don't have to sift through 100 different things, and they don't have to, we all get bombarded every single day with sales calls and the next best thing. And instead of doing that, if we can just simplify it, and if we can just make the tools and resources be, actually, let's keep, do me a favor, go back to the slide there, please, Burl. Nope. The one with the Success Center, putting SLAM, AM, and BAM. Yeah.
Oh, got it. Okay. Okay, sorry.
And no, that was great.
Speedy fingers, man. The fingers are speedy.
Good to go. because I want to make sure everybody realizes that we've all had our stuff, and the brand has had its stuff. And so I think everybody on this call, if they're a broker, they've got a listing presentation, they've got a buyer's consultation, they've got their contract training, they've got their some semblance of job descriptions and whatnot. What we found with Burl and his group is the crowdsourcing that he does. His company coaches 250 plus top agents and teams across the country and outside of the country. And the crowdsourcing, and I love that word, that we witnessed when we were out in Salt Lake City and saw 55 or so of them interacting, and they share. And so they take the best of the best and they share that. And so we all are now beneficiaries. So when we signed up with Burl, we got the buyer agent mastery, we got the seller listing agent mastery, and we have now branded that. Thank you, Burl, with his stuff is now branded the NM Success Center. So it's on our dashboard, and we've got several of our agents doing some advanced training and testing on it. And then on February 6th, that will be available to every one of our agents to be able to have that information. And so the folks that have seen it thus far are just blown away and are very appreciative.
There's a high level of engagement too, and we've rolled this out with a few companies, and I'm impressed with the level of engagement that's happening with your group. And I think the reason for that is because the top down, where you started at the top, you got buy-in from the branch leaders, then you went to the the right people and said we're allowing you to get access before we roll it out to everybody else. And then when we do the bottom out roll up, where we do it in front of all the agents, we'll have a room full of raving fans. And I think it's really cool to see the whole strategy being executed.
Oh, we're excited as I'll get out.
Talk about and this is just, I'm just going to say it, and I hope I don't hurt anybody's feelings, but there's not all companies are team friendly, and not all companies are team proactive. Most companies will call us and they'll say something like, we need a team solution, and we'll show them what a team solution looks like, and they'll say, oh, that's not what we meant. What we meant is, if someone's trying to recruit one of our top producers, we want to say, oh, we have a program for you too, as opposed to really having an environment that looks for the elite and not only brings them in, but keeps your people that are producers. How have you gone from a regular agent mindset to understanding what's happening with teams, and what happened in the marketplace to make you have that shift?
I think one word, necessity, and I think two words, smart business. I mean, we have been fortunate. We've had a number of the top teams in the DC area that have been a part of us for 20 and longer than that from our predecessor companies, because it was February of '98, as I mentioned, when we put when we montaged together 4 of the top Century 21 companies to create New Millennium. But the companies that were put together and merged together were in existence long before that. So we've got a number of teams that we've had for 2 decades and 3 decades, but we've never really gone after, if you will. We've created, but we haven't necessarily gone after top teams. And just in the last 18 months, maybe 24 months, we just had the mindset that, we need to be team focused, not just team friendly, but team focused. So we want to get to the point where everybody just points to us and says, yeah, I mean, if you're a team, you need to be with them, because you're going to get everything that you can get from A, B, or C, but you're getting that much more. You're still getting that caliber of leader at the helm in the branch positions. You're still getting that caliber of staffing in the offices that are there to support you. And then you're getting the agent concierge team as well, to be able to free up the agent's time and the entire team's time. And if you're a mature team, you don't necessarily have to. The company is going to perform a lot of the buyer assistant and the administrative assistant tasks that many of the teams think they need to create and do. So, go ahead, Earl. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I think it's interesting. I think what you're seeing an example of is a lot of people they've adapted to teams, but they haven't really thought about how do we strategically go after them, recruit to them, build businesses around them. And one of the things you're doing that's unique, and I think it's important to point this out from a strategy for 2018, and you talked about it as your concierge services, where you're putting together a pool of, if you will, client care coordinators or transaction coordinators or admins that can take work off the agent's plate. One of the differentiators is that a lot of people that talk about teams, especially from a broker owner perspective, is they say, okay, it's about the commission concept. And that's not really why people form and build teams. They build teams because they want to have a better life. And the complicated nature of the transaction is such that, you know, all of the paperwork and inspections and coordination and showings and all of those things take up away from that agent to be away from their families. And so they believe that by hiring other people or by building a team, it's going to give them a higher quality of life. And so that piece that you talked about, that concierge services, where you're providing a lot of those services for people that want that, so they don't have to go out and hire their own people, is such a huge mind shift in what a broker does for their agents. It's not just the commission concept.
Thanks.
Well, I think it's an important thing to recognize as a differentiator, because I think there's a lot of people in the same place as you are where they're trying to figure out what to do with them. And so this slide, I'm not sure it's what you're doing to kind of have an initiative with the rollout with teams.
Yeah, and you know, it started with the retreats, and then it's a matter of getting input, not just agent training, but input from the agents on what they really want, and then it's training the branch leaders on how to deliver that. And really, it's a different recruiting talk track when you're talking to a 1.2 million gross close commission team as opposed to a $100,000 agent. And we need to make sure that everybody at every level of the company is embracing and supporting and is focused on the success. And it should never be a mindset, well, I don't really want to help team X because they're on a cap and we're only making an X number of dollars on them. That's just the wrong attitude, because if they are wildly successful, they're going to speak highly of who we are and what we can bring to the table, and it'll help attract. And it's a never-ending cycle. That's a positive thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. A question that came up on the Concierge Center: how do you provide that service to your agents? Is it a part of their compensation plan? Is that a per transaction fee? Do they pay for it? Are you just including it?
Yeah, we actually charged a flat commission in addition to our per operative side commission. We charge a flat commission in our marketplace, $395. We actually went out to our competition and pulled HUD ones of about 70 different companies, and they range from $295 to $695. And for years we've charged $395, and so we charged a $395 flat fee commission to be able to offset the hard costs of providing the agent concierge team.
Simple. It's simple. I think we sometimes overcomplicate the process of providing services. And are the agents willing to pay it? Are they willing to collect it and to pay it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's briefly just go over a little bit about prioritization. When you have so many initiatives and things you're rolling out, I look at the time, and our time goes really fast together. So let's kind of go through this a little bit quickly if we can. Talk to me a little bit about the prioritization process and how you get things done.
Sure. It's interesting, and you know, we talked about the quasi-scientific analysis that we go through with an engineer mindset, and we would always pull our exec team together, and we'd have 100 items to do, and we'd categorize them, you know, A's, D's, C's. Within the A's, we'd then numerically sequence them. But the concept of an agile, and that was a new concept that Burl and his coaches brought to our team. And so everything we're doing right now, any initiative from the company and any projects, if you will, it's not a to-do list, but it's actual a way to get your hands around and prioritize what's important. You know, for instance, with the company-wide event on the 6th of February, there are myriad tasks that need to get done, and there are myriad smaller projects that need to get done. So we create what's called a sprint in order to draw out something that's going to be done on a recurring basis, or something that's going to be a one-off. In this case, many of these are one-offs, but the sprints can be applied to other recurring events. So if we have 100 different things to take care of between now and the 6th of February for the company-wide meeting, and we still have to continue the operations of the company, we have to prioritize and weight that which is important. So if there are 100 things, the exec team, you know, sits down and goes through on the Agile, works on one common Agile that everybody has access to. So we're not sending thousands of emails and voicemails and wasted time back and forth. We all are working from the Google Doc that we're able to that Burl has helped us create, that we're able to then say, okay, here's what we need to do. These things all need to get done, but what's the highest priority? And you know what? Some of these things that are weighted, and if we weighted as nothing gets 1,000, but if something got a 900, it obviously has a better weighting than a 200. And the 200s and 300s are just going to have to be on the back burner for a while. And you know what? That's okay, because these other things are that much more important, and they're going to be top line revenue driving things that are going to be at the top.
Yeah, for me, when you describe Agile like that, I love it because it just helps me. It reminds me of how important it is to do the highest priority project, not the thing that's making the most noise, or whatever seminar
Right.
we went to last. We get excited and emotional about things as they come up. Let's talk just a little bit about lead management and conversion strategy for 2018.
Sure. Third-party relocation. Obviously, again, with military and corporate relo in our marketplace, we do that very well. What we have done poorly is the e-leads, and I don't know many companies around the country that do it phenomenally well. A lot of the stats, and again with the networking that we've done, we'll have a 3% conversion, which is fair to Midland. Those that are doing a 5% conversion are actually, almost knocking the cover off the ball. But we realize that we've got a ton of leads. It's not that we necessarily need to create and generate more leads. We just need to do better with that which we already have. So we've actually allocated one of our member of our leadership team and put him in charge of our leads management and conversion division. This is truly just starting now. We realized that we had literally a couple of thousand leads coming in a month of rental inquiries that we were failing miserably at. And if we could get a nominal conversion on those from a buy standpoint, what a win that would be. So that, coupled with everything we all have from whatever your CRM and whatever the program is that you're using, and whether it's conversion or Boomtown or SmartZip or whatever, we all, Zillow and Realtor.com, we've all played in these arenas, but we personally need to do a better job of making sure that we can close more. So I'll jump right to step 5. We all know the different steps that need to take place to get there, but I know we also are running out of time, and I know you want to get some questions.
It's
give
all right.
Everybody the ability to do questions, but we want to, bottom line, we want to close more business from the leads that we already have, and we've been failing miserably at the goodly amount of leads that are right in front of our face.
Yeah, I think there's just recognizing that there should be a process for everything, and then putting it on the Agile and implementing the process is what's going to separate, just going from being okay at it to being exceptional at it. Talk a little bit about the culture and how it's kind of how it's translated through down to the communities.
Our culture and our people are what I am most proud of, and it's our people that have taken that. Our company mantra is vested in you, together we're better. And that applies to the agent level, because we need to be vested in our agent's success. And it applies from the agent to the client or the customer level, that the agent needs to be vested in that seller or that buyer's success and in the community's success. So, obviously a company of our size, we've got regional charities, we've got company charities, and we've got individual branch charities. And we are incredibly busy in every one of our communities for a reason. It's the right thing to do, and it's the peripheral benefit, and it's truly just that. It's a peripheral benefit, is that people associate our people with real estate, and when it comes to helping them in their real estate needs, we're going to hope that they're going to turn to us. So our people represent us very well out on the streets, and I'm really pleased about that.
Well, I love that, and that's the thing to be most proud of as a business leader, is not how much you get, but how much you're able to give back and the difference you make. When I look at the pictures of some of these kids and their faces in these pictures, it makes me smile, because I know that your people are out there making a difference, one person at a time. And I'll tell you that I admire it, and I think a lot about creating a culture of giving and making a difference in the communities that we serve as real estate agents and brokers. The opportunities are so huge. We get so much out of our communities, and to give back our most precious asset, our time, I think is the greatest thing that we can do. We do have a few questions. I want to put a slide up that gives you some bonuses. So we've got the ISMS book that we're going to give everybody. We also have an Agile project template, which is the actual Google Drive to an Agile. We're going to show you how to use that. I'll give you a link to be able to show you how to use that. There's a book called 8651, How to Close 86 Transactions, working with 50 people 1 hour a day. And I don't know what the free brokerage team is, but evidently we're giving that away free. Oh, a strategy session. No, there's a return on there, Todd. It's a free brokerage team strategy session. If you want to talk about what it looks like to help your brokerage become, team proactive, then you can sign up for that on the deal. So let me take just a second, and you just want to go to workmansuccess.com/quicken to get all of those things. So take a picture or screenshot of this slide of the screen right here, and I'm going to jump back and I'm going to answer some questions ask some questions from the group. One of the first questions that came in it has to do with your social strategy, and that is, do you have a % of revenue or a % of gross that you spend on digital media, or do you just come up with a digital media budget? What does that look like for a company your size?
I'd love to be able to give you a very factual answer, but I don't have one for you, quite frankly, and that's an issue that I need to solve. We have a focus. We've hired a full-time director of social and digital media, but I can't tell you that it's a percentage of the money that we spend, and I'm just being blunt. I don't have the answer to that, but I can tell you that it is far more. It's becoming more and more every month and every day, to the point of even this morning, because now it's into the video conferencing, it's into the discussions with CirclePix and AdWorks and all the money that really gets tied into the digital arena as well. But I can't tell you that it's 2.7% or 22.7% of the gross or the net dollar that we have, because I haven't looked at it that way. But whoever asked that question, I appreciate the question, and I will have to get an answer. And if you want to type in your information and get it to Verl, I'll get an answer for you when I get smarter about it.
That is a good question, right? So yeah, I'm sure it's a small percentage, but it's a real number, and we ought to look at it. Well, Jeff had a question. It says, I have a commercial real estate company, and I'd like to work with more residential realtors on a referral program. How would you recommend putting that program together, since you do so much referral business?
That's a great question, and it's interesting because we have a commercial department that we try to get them in front of. I would link up, Jeff, if you depending upon what marketplace you're in, I'd find the best of the best on the residential side and sit down with a like-minded broker and say, look, I think there's a give and take here. I don't like my residential agents to dabble, if you will, in commercial. And commercial is a smaller percentage of our business. I would if I were you, Jeff, I'd get with the broker there and say, look, I'm bringing something to the table here. There's going to be a referral fee back to your agent, and those deals aren't going to just die on the vine. And I'd get into a whole campaign about how you can get in front of them at business meetings. Wherever we put our commercial folks in front of our agents at business meetings, everybody starts to think, oh my gosh, yeah, I forgot about so-and-so. They went through such and such. I can't do it because I don't really even know the acronyms that are involved in commercial leasing, commercial sales, but you can, and I can get a mailbox money. It might be 2 years down the road, but I can get mailbox money. So I'd partner with a like-minded, sharp broker that understands what you bring to the table.
That's great advice, and I'll echo what Todd says about specialization. When you do it and all you do is commercial real estate, you get really good at it. And when all you do is residential real estate and you focus just on listings, you get really good at listings. And when you focus just on buyers, you get really good at buyers. And so by partnering with someone who has expertise in areas where you don't, you really are putting the client's interest ahead of your own. And that's a noble way of looking at the business, is doing the right thing for the client. And when I'm not the best person to help them, you have to recognize that. But there's no reason you can't create a referral relationship to make money with it. So I like where your mind is on that, Jeff. Frank had a question about the size of your offices. Is there an average size of office, and how many staff people do they have in each office?
Sure, and the The longer answer is no. There is not an average, and the staff depends upon the size of the office. So our offices vary from Culpeper, Virginia, which has a small, quaint, beautiful hometown feel, where we may have 28 licensees, and we'll have 1.5 full-time staff folks in addition to our branch leader, to McLean, Virginia, or Alexandria, Virginia, or Annapolis, Maryland, Lexington Park, Maryland, that have, that are knocking down 900 transactions and have, 3.5, 4 full-time staff people in addition to the branch leader. So it really depends upon what the market will bear, and the agent population and the potential for the number of real estate transactions in the marketplace.
Yeah, and I think you start to, as you grow your company, you'll start to get a feeling for how many support people per number of agents it takes to be able to give the level of service that you provide. And your company's a little bit different because you centralize some of those services, so each office doesn't have to have as many staff.
Right.
Okay, good, great questions. I'm trying to think. We're not going to get to all of them. We'll do our best to send emails to some of the questions that are there. If you have questions about that, I want to let everybody know how much we appreciate this. This is our last RIS Media webinar for the year, Todd, and I appreciate you bringing it home with a great amount of information today. And Tom, thank you for being here. Any last thoughts or comments from you, Tom, as we're moving forward to make 2018 our best year?
No, I think you guys did a great job. Just happy holidays to everyone, and thanks for your time today and allowing us to be a part of it.
Well, thank you very much, and I'll leave you with this parting thought, Todd and Tom and everybody else who's with us, and that is that massive action creates massive results. And if you want a massive result in 2018, you have to decide what is that thing that you're willing to take massive action so that you can make it happen. Decide what it's going to be, roll up your sleeves, and get it done. Let's have an unbelievable 2018. Thank you, everybody who's been involved in these webinars, and we'll talk to you all next month. Thanks, everybody. And Todd, thanks again for being our guest today.
Indeed. Thank you.